Hello, my name is Peter Smith. I work with Glasgow Housing Association. I'm a locality housing director in the west of the city, and today I'm going to be answering questions on the power of attorney. For ourselves, we generally would start talking to our older customers about power of attorney whenever they are experiencing any loss of capacity. And one of the main purposes for that, not only to protect themselves and give them some assurances, but also in terms of us as a housing association. It's important for us to have someone who is capable and able to manage the rent accounts, for instance, and importantly as well, when that individual eventually will move into supported accommodation or another location, somebody who can actually terminate the tenancy. One of the big problems that we come across is by the time the power of attorney is resolved, somebody's already moved out and they're no longer able to pay their rent on a property, and neither is anybody able at that stage to adequately terminate the tenancy. And so someone who's lived a long time, managed to keep their rent up to date all the way through, suddenly find in the twilight of their years that they're actually on us arrears at that stage. And I'm sure, although they may not themselves be fully aware of that at that stage, just I don't think a lot of people would be happy with that there. So it's important to us. We would normally start the conversations with them at that time. However, since talking to the team regarding power of attorney, then it's brought home to me that it's important to talk to people about this at any time, because any circumstances could impact on someone's ability to manage their home, manage their finances, manage their care. So we would be looking to engage in that at any point in the conversation. In my private life, over the last year, we've had cause to talk to my in-laws. Both of them are now in their 90 years of age. So again, we've left it till quite late on in the process. And that was as they were starting to develop things of dementia and Alzheimer's. So for us, we got in just in time, I would guess, for that there. And the conversation wasn't too difficult at that stage. We have a good relationship with them, and we were able to talk openly and freely about it, that they could see that we had their best interests at heart and that we took it at whatever pace they wanted and gave them whatever assurances they were looking for, and they knew that we were there for them. I suppose when we started that conversation with them, we were telling them that they still had their costs, they still had their finances, they still had their care to be taken into consideration, and that they would not always be in a clear capacity to be able to do that. So our conversation with them was about how we would be able to help manage that for them, help look after them, and what the process was for that. At that stage there, they weren't familiar with the term such as power of attorney, but they were familiar that at some stage, there was that view that your children, if you're fortunate to live long enough, that the children might be taking a stronger control over what was happening in their life, and that they were also clear as well that they knew that we needed some power, some paper to be able to say that we spoke on their behalf. That was how we were able to introduce the term power of attorney with them and take them down that route of getting that sorted out. So our personal experience of the process of getting the power of attorney was after we'd had a couple of conversations with the in-laws about that, then we'd done a bit of research ourselves. Fortunately for us, we're both quite useful on the internet. We were able to track down some local lawyers, solicitors who were able to assist us with that there. So they came out, the family were together, they advised us of the different types of power of attorney and how it could progress over time as well, if that's how we so chose it. So initially it was about the care side of things, and then it was developing on to helping them having the power over the financial aspects of things. It was all pretty quick. I think, from start to finish, that took about 3 months. The solicitors themselves were great, fantastic, very caring. They came out to the property since the in-laws were both a bit frail and elderly, and very, very thoughtful, very caring, and made it very simple for everybody to understand. Like myself, I'm sure most people assume that power of attorney is for family members, and I think that that's the case in most instances. But it can actually be power of attorney for anybody over the age of 16, as long as they have good capacity themselves. And I suppose the important thing to think about when deciding who that should be is the trust and the relationship that you have with them there. And if that's in place and they're there to help you and you trust them, then anybody really can be the power of attorney for you. I was initially confused with the difference between power of attorney and guardianship. When my in-laws were first looking at power of attorney, that's when they had control about who would actually, they would allocate that to, what the level of that power would be, and what their wishes were and their expectations were for the person that was taking over that power of attorney. The guardianship, fortunately, we didn't have to go down that route, was when they no longer have the capacity and able to choose who that would be. I have had some experience of that through my working environment, whereby when we've had somebody move into a care home, they've lost capacity, and there's nobody there to pick up that power of attorney, so they start to move into guardianship. And I know from experience that that can take a long period of time, and they're sometimes difficult to locate somebody who can take that on. And sometimes that then has to be places like maybe the social work offices, and it just complicates things. It drags out the process itself. It is more expensive, and it certainly takes a lot more time. And there's never the assurance that the people that you'll get for that guardianship know what your wishes were or would be following that out. But my advice is get it power of attorney before it has to go to guardianship. For our organisation, I've seen many people who never had power of attorney in place when they went into a care facility, and they maybe have lost their capacity at that stage. Now, what that ends up doing for them is they may have had a long, happy tenancy with us, never in arrears, never any bother, and what results is there's no one there to terminate their tenancy, and that means they have this rent cost being raised against them every month, increasing arrears for them, which in many cases they would be absolutely affronted if they knew that that was there. And it takes a long period of time after that, if we have to pursue some guardianship to get that resolved and get the tenancy terminated. Worst case scenario is if we can't get that done, then we would actually have to take legal action against them, which is the last thing that we want to do at the end of a long tenancy, 40, 50 years tenancy with people. And even if it was a shorter tenancy, just the fact that we would have to be taking legal action against people in those circumstances, I think it would be quite appalling. It's a great waste of time, a great waste of resource, and it could easily have been sorted with having the power of attorney in place at the time.